Remember, these changes that we're experiencing are real, and I'm not sitting out here cutting all the stuff on my property, sweating, insects, all kind of stuff, but gonna need to get it cleared out more, put some greenhouses down here to be able to grow food year round. So what are you gonna do? Because these supply chains are not gonna be functional after a while, you know. There's just so many things are going on at the moment that portend ill omen. Cosmic rays showing similar activity to the Dalton minimum 1790 to 1830. And we're going to head lower over the next couple of solar cycles. It's all about the food production globally, where it's not going to be anywhere close enough to feed everybody. It's starting in China already with the food crisis. Food waste minimization campaign in China. You say, oh, we'd never do that in the United States. Yeah, social distance. You're getting ready for rationing. Wasteful industries, restaurants closed, divert that food back into the home without alerting anybody. All the restrictions now of workers in mass, many fields full of crops but no buyers. Oh wait, the states and the U.S. Department of Agriculture are buying to push into the food banks, or I should say the tentacles of control. In this day and age, it's so important to keep your body functioning at optimal performance. And collagen may be the closest thing we get to a real fountain of youth. After all, collagen is the most abundant protein in your body and essentially the glue that holds it all together. When you're middle-aged, you're only producing half of the collagen that you did in your youth. My focus is about digestive health, because the change in our diets from foods being unavailable, moving to seasonal availability of foods, and the entire spectrum of availability of foods changing. There's so much more to talk about with the benefits of collagen. You can visit healthwithadapt2030.com to learn more. The link's to the description box below. And if you haven't gotten the memo, we're repeating a 400-year cycle in low solar activity that is beginning to take vast swaths of crop yields offline across all continents. This is the rollover year, visible to everybody now. And the science backing it up, cosmic rays increasing, show remarkably similar activity to the Dalton minimum 1790 to 1830. And what happens during grand solar minimums, might you ask? Well, at least one repercussion is lower than average global temperatures, which also will affect crop yields, along with the increased volcanic activity, which will also affect crop yields. In the extreme rainfall and shifting wind patterns, that'll affect agriculture too. Jumping back to the Dalton minimum to give you an idea of the solar activity matchup and similarities. Gleisberg minimum on the right, Dalton minimum on the left. Where we are presently on the bottom, in the both right and left, and whatever way you stack it up, we are going into low solar activity. And I am still shocked why governments are not talking about this as a Manhattan Project to get you to grow your own victory gardens and get our communities organized to grow our own food. Because moving out through this and next solar cycle 26, even into solar cycle 27, we're going back into a 400-year cooling phase, very similar to the Maunder minimum. And with it, crop yields shall be reduced some 25 to 30% across the planet. How do you think governments are going to handle that? How are we going to keep our economy moving forward? Oh wait, everything's just getting shattered at the exact same years that this is beginning. A little coincidental for me. But the signs are no longer hideable, shall we say. We've seen the massive floods, some of the largest floods in at least 200 years in China. Some say 400. Signs of food crisis in China for sure. Stored food washed away. At least 80% of their fields underwater at the moment. So now Xi Jinping coming out asking the citizens to control food habits amid the severe food crisis. It's called a food waste minimization campaign. Now, when the CCP comes out admitting that they lost control of the food supply, there's a huge problem. And now what they're even demonizing YouTubers who eat dinner and talk to their subscribers, they're like, oh, you're a food waster. So those people are actually removing their channels or hiding all of the previous, what was grandiose eating on a nightly program with people to get them through their evenings, talk about whatever it was through the day. Everybody had a different kind of talking point along with different types of food. And if you were alone and you had nobody to eat with, you could turn into their channels and you could eat with another person. Started in Korea, swept the planet. There's thousands of those channels. The ones in China are all being removed at the moment. And during the bizarreness of everything, Chinese restaurants are now apologizing for asking customers to weigh in before ordering food. Now, that in itself is an interesting story, but within that, there's something useful. So what they had them do, they had to stand on the scales. After that is recommend certain choices based on your body type and your weight. And as you read through the article, which I linked in the description box below, it'll show you what was recommended for which weight class and which individuals. There can be a lot gleaned from that individually if you know your body type and what your weight is. There's a lot of good suggestions there, from beef to vegetables and everything in between. But when we look at who's wasting the most food, now if you're not going to alert the planet that we have an inbound crisis of food on the civilization reset cycle here, you'd have to do it sort of in a casual manner that wouldn't alert everybody at the same time. So looking across the landscape, who's wasting the most food? Restaurants and institutions. So just by putting those out of business is what we've seen with the restrictions so far since the beginning of the year in operating businesses. We've saved 40%, literally a gain of 40% food that would have been wasted otherwise. So that bought a few months or even 6 months, 8 months. We're going to be right back at it in the harvest season again. Cat's out of the bag. Now, the residential and the grocery stores have flipped so dramatically that the wastage out of this has been removed pretty much. Now you have people standing in line and savoring every morsel, and they're not throwing much away because it's such a hindrance to go buy anything. Waiting in line, all these things. So people are really being much more careful with food than they were, so you can knock another few percent off of those. So we're looking at a 50% gain. That's amazing without alerting anybody. So when we're talking about this grand solar minimum in the 400-year solar cycle, what goes with it? It's called the fingerprint of the grand solar minimum. Decreased crop yields, volcanic eruptions, and cooler temperatures. And this grand solar minimum has already started, and we get this thing to lock down the planet and control the food supply. Coincidence? Let's look. Open table reservations crash. Of course, so many of these restaurants are never, ever coming back. But that's a very useful thing if you're looking at controlling food wastage. Statista continuing from March all the way through into the global seated diners, still down at least 40-45% through August here. But as soon as more restrictions get slapped into place through the autumn, that's going to go right down to 100 again. But they're already getting you ready for rationing. What do you think this standing in line thing's about? Only so many people into a supermarket at a time? Get out your rationing card. It's a type of a soft opening, if you will. Because wherever you look, they were not allowing workers to go in. The meatpacking plants had closed. There weren't enough migrant workers to be able to pick all the crops. Wherever you look, they were dumping milk, crushing eggs, just huge disruptions across the food supply chain. And this headline here, struggling farmers working to overwhelm food banks to stay afloat. I did a video yesterday with the biggest lines ever recorded in Texas for food assistance. And what they're finding now is the fields that were planted and they're coming to maturation, there's not anybody there to harvest it, so there's no buyers on the institutional level because, like I showed you, the restaurants and the schools, the universities, that type of thing, they're not buying anymore at that mass scale. Lo and behold, the Department of Food and Agriculture in each individual state is now paying farmers to send their surplus to food banks. And I wonder how much they're pulling out of there to send to their storage units as well. Because Christian over at iChade Farmer had also done a full expose on states stockpiling food while telling you don't buy anything because you might disrupt the supply chain. And then we can take it a whole level up. U.S. Department of Agriculture launched a $3 billion effort to buy food from farmers to deliver it to where? Food banks. Now what happens when the economy is in shambles? You don't have any other choice except to go to the what? To get fed? Where? The food bank. I wonder what hoops you'll have to get through to get into that and get your food. Another level of control is being put. It seems like it's a purposeful chessboard array of mandates and things going on across the planet to control the food at this integral time when we're entering incredible crop losses for the year here, which are going to continue through 2030. It's just going to get more pronounced from this point forward. So here's a little bit of what I'm doing to prepare myself. I'm in the process of starting a new homestead in East Tennessee. I'm trying to clear out a bit of the lower part of the land here. So I've just been doing this by hand. It's a little trail that starts up at the beginning of the property. And sometimes the machine's not available. These guys are booked out because so many people are moving to the countryside that having to do a little bit of the pre-work by myself so I can get down in here and take a look at what we have. But I will clean all of this out eventually here, like today, to see what our upper field looks like. And being a caretaker of the land, see, it's pretty easy. It won't take but a couple minutes to get up here. That mountain there, that's included in this property. So land goes all the way to the very top there. Cut all this down, 4 and some acres out here, in addition to what's already cleared up there. There's a couple, terraces already up there where somebody put a house and a cabin and then they took it off. But that's kind of what I'm doing in my sparish time now. Remember, these changes that we're experiencing are real, and I'm not sitting out here cutting all the stuff on my property, sweating, insects, all kind of stuff, but gonna need to get it cleared out more, put some greenhouses down here to be able to grow food year round. So what are you gonna do? Because these supply chains are not gonna be functional after a while, you know. There's just so many things are going on at the moment that portend ill omen, shall we say. So you might want to think about getting your own food growing. So let me grab my stuff. Bush hogging was only done with this hand scythe here. Nice pair of loppers and gloves and my energy, and that's about it. Whew, good sweat, good workout, get all the news, mainstream media toxins out of the body. This all in here. Just gonna get all beat back, and we're gonna put a small garden right in here, because all these smaller plants, they're all coming out. And when you pop out in the field, it looks a little like this. Hiding from everybody. Bye for now. And as I said, I'm in the process of starting a new homestead in East Tennessee. I'm going to be documenting everything and putting most of it on Patreon. Because as has been said, there's 5 pillars to homesteading: food, water, shelter, energy, and security. But the best part is they're all fun. And I'm going to start sharing this adventure with you. Patreon.com/adapt2030. Thanks for watching. Hope you got something out of the video, and I will see you next time. Spend the weekend learning how to grow something.